Are these both considered max cushion shoes, or is one a cushion trainer while the other one's a max cushion trainer? Who really knows? But today, let's talk about which one might be right for you, the ASICS Gel Nimbus 27 or the Brooks Glycerin 22. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod, and you're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. Now today we're going to be breaking down the ASICS Gel Nimbus 27 versus the Brooks Glycerin 22, so that you can decide which one might fit your foot better or which one might be the better fit for your overall shoe rotation. Now if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around to the various parts of this comparison, but if you do so, I would sure appreciate if you come back and watch the full video when you get a sec, as I put a lot of time and effort into these. And if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I drop a new video, which is typically Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But lately, to start off the year, we're doing daily videos just to catch up on some of the reviews and comparisons that I've been wanting to do for a while. And if you like what you see today, please consider hitting that like button, as well as leaving a comment to let me know what you enjoyed about today's comparison, or what other comparisons you'd like to see, as I want to make sure that I'm providing valuable information for each and every one of you. Now to start off this conversation, let's talk about some disclaimers and disclosures, which are that I was provided both of these shoes for the purpose of review directly from the brands. That being said, I'm not being paid for this review. I was not asked to make any specific content. I was not asked to make any specific comparisons. No one ever gives me talking points. No one ever watches my videos beforehand. All thoughts are entirely my own. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about the intended use of these shoes. Max cushion doesn't mean what max cushion used to when it comes to running shoes. So the Glycerin used to be Brooks's max cushion option, but now we have the Brooks Ghost Max, the Brooks Glycerin Max, and those are kind of more of the super max cushion category now. And you could argue that the Glycerin might be a super trainer. It's a little bit unclear. Meanwhile, over on the ASICS side, the Gel Nimbus is pretty clearly their max cushion option, but you also do have the max cushion kind of super trainer option in the Superblast. Now, for the purpose of this conversation, I would say both of these shoes serve a similar purpose. For the most part, I would say that the Glycerin 22 is a little bit more of a, leaning more towards a standard daily trainer these days, versus the Gel Nimbus 27 is going to be a little bit more of your recovery day, true max cushion shoe. But both of these are cushioned daily trainers or max cushion daily trainers, depending on where we want to draw the line. So that's how we're going to be evaluating them today. Now that category, for the most part, like I said, is for easy runs, recovery runs, kind of steady runs, and for those who are going on maybe a long run and want extra cushion, can be a good long run shoe as well. But neither of these shoes are necessarily supposed to thrive for workouts and be super versatile. They're supposed to be the shoes that you choose when you want a little bit of extra protection underfoot. Now talking about the price, both of these shoes come in $165 mark. You know, you used to, again, be able to say hey, a max cushion shoe costs this amount, a daily trainer, standard daily trainer costs this amount, a lightweight daily trainer costs this amount. But as brands have grown their lineups, the lines are being blurred across different shoes. For better or for worse, most shoes are becoming a little bit more versatile. So 165 is going to be pretty typical for your cushion trainer general range for the most part. It is on the little bit of the higher end, but it wouldn't surprise me in 2025 if we see that kind of being the norm going forward. Now from a specs perspective, the 27 comes in at 43.5 in the heel, 35.5 in the forefoot for an 8mm heel to toe drop, and the Glycerin 22 comes in at 38 in the heel, 28 in the forefoot for a 10mm heel to toe drop. So overall, the ASICS is actually significantly more cushioned, both in the forefoot and the heel, with that lower drop overall. This is going to be on the high end of mid drop, so 6 to 8 or 5 to 8 is kind of that mid drop zone. And then 10 is obviously going to be on the higher end. That is considered a higher drop overall shoe. Now moving to the fit, I would say that the Gel Nimbus 27 fits a little bit wide for the most part. It's a little bit more accommodating, and that as far as lengthwise, I would say it fits pretty much true to size. It has a pretty accommodating toe box. The heel has a lot of cushion there, so I would say that's a standard fit, and it has a standard midfoot as well, maybe leaning towards a little bit snug, but for the most part, I would say accommodating. Meanwhile, with the Glycerin 22, I would say that it fits true to size lengthwise as well. You also have a good amount of cushioning in that heel, which can make that heel feel a little bit more narrow, but really it's kind of a standard fitting heel. I would say it's a pretty snug or narrow kind of midfoot, and then accommodating toe box for a Brooks. So it's a little bit more accommodating for a Brooks shoe, but is still probably on the narrower side of shoes. But both of these, I would say, you're probably fine in your normal size. I would not necessarily look to size up or size down. Moving to the uppers, the Gel Nimbus has a engineered jacquard mesh upper, which is fairly breathable compared to the knit that they used to have, but there's a good amount of cushion there in the heel, and that padding and that extra plush does kind of heat the feet up a little bit. The Glycerin also uses a jacquard, but it is a dual layer mesh jacquard upper. So the dual layer is actually supposed to make it a little bit breathable. It's supposed to make it so that heat can dissipate a little bit, but it also has a pretty plush heel cup there, which again adds to some of that weight. And then with the Glycerin, you also have a more plush cushioned tongue, which also keeps the foot a little bit warm. So both of these shoes are not the most breathable, but there's a lot of really plush elements in these shoes that are really geared more towards comfort overall. Now the Glycerin does not have a gusseted tongue, but because there's enough plush, I did find that it had good lockdown, and I did find that the tongue kind of additional pressure or cushioning there kept your foot locked in place. And overall, I would say it's just a very comfortable experience for the most part. No slippage in the shoe whatsoever. Really, really good lockdown. No concerns when it comes to the shoe. And I do like some of these like newer elements like the heel tab. You'll notice that the ASICS Gel Nimbus also has a similar heel tab, and I'm not 100% sure of this, but I have heard that one of the ASICS designers actually went over to Brooks, and that may or may not be some of the ASICS designer influence finding its way into the Brooks models. Now, meanwhile, over on the Gel Nimbus 27, the tongue is fully gusseted, and it is kind of this knit stretch tongue. And I find that that does help with the lockdown of the shoe, but more so than that, the new lacing system in the 27 compared to the 26, in my opinion, is a lot better and has this upper feeling a lot more dialed in, a lot more locked in. And so I actually didn't have any shifting in this shoe, but I had shifting in previous models. So that is something to note with this shoe. But when comparing these two side to side, both of them have really good lockdown in the uppers. Both of them are going to be a little bit warmer, a little bit plush overall, and that's kind of what they're going for as well. Now moving to the midsoles, this is where these shoes start to deviate a little bit because the uppers give a overall similar experience. Over in the Gel Nimbus, you have the FF Blast Plus Eco, which is going to be a soft yet supportive overall foam, and I do find that it is somewhat on the firmer side of these kind of recovery day foams. So it looks like it should be really, really plush and squishy, and to be clear, I do find that it is a little bit softer than the 26. Maybe it's closer to what the 25 is. I didn't run in the 25, so I can't speak to that, but it's still overall to me a firmer, more supportive, not really responsive at all, just really supportive cushioning underfoot. Meanwhile, the Glycerin 22 has the new DNA tuned foam, which is a dual density foam where essentially you can see there is this yellow foam here. They have a more dense foam in the forefoot, and it's a little bit less dense here in the heel. And what that does is it's going to be softer in the heel and more responsive in the forefoot to create a better toe off for the shoe, better heel to toe transition. So as far as the sensations of these two shoes, I would say the Glycerin is going to be a little bit softer, but overall they're not that far off in my opinion of squish. The Glycerin being a little bit more dynamic, having that higher heel to toe drop, and then having that slightly more dense foam in the forefoot allows for maybe a little bit more pace versatility. It's still not a shoe that I really enjoy doing pickups in. It still very much is a shoe that I really just want to do easy runs in for the most part. But when compared to the Gel Nimbus, it's going to have a little bit more versatility. It's going to feel a little bit more like a standard trainer versus the Gel Nimbus doesn't really have any pace versatility. Like it doesn't feel great even when you're doing strides. It really just wants to be a nice, relaxed recovery day shoe, and it's great at that overall. Now, from a stability standpoint, I would say that the Gel Nimbus is maybe a little bit more stable for the most part, but that doesn't make the Glycerin unstable. The Gel Nimbus just tends to have a slightly wider base overall, and you sink into that foam. It's just more of a supportive overall foam, and so it kind of really kind of squishes under you and supports the foot as a whole. And so you're not going to really be worried about turning over in this, and even if you are, then you might want to look at like the Gel Cayano. But if you're having issues with the Gel Nimbus, then you're definitely going to have issues with the Glycerin. Now, the Glycerin also has an option to get it with the guide rail system or the GTS guide rails on the side, which is going to prevent some of that overpronation or supination as well. And so that could be an option if you have stability needs, but I don't think you're going to have any issues with the Gel Nimbus if you're going that route. Again, both of these shoes are fairly stable overall and may work for those who have light overpronation issues. Moving to the outsoles, we have the hybrid ASICS grip rubber, which I have found to be solid overall. I haven't had any issues in it, but I also haven't run fast in the shoe, and sometimes that's where you start to get yourself a little bit in trouble on wet roads. But for the most part, we've been good to go with the ASICS grip or hybrid ASICS grip rubber. Now, I will say though that the Glycerin has, I believe it's the road tack rubber, but I haven't confirmed whether that is the case for the 22, if they've changed the rubber compound from the 21. But I will say that the Glycerin 22 has really nice sticky rubber, and that seems to grip the ground really, really well. And the outsole is also a decent amount thicker from what I can see. So I actually think that the Glycerin is probably going to have better traction overall and is going to be a, you know, more durable outsole overall. Frankly, both shoes or both brands have a good reputation in terms of durability though and build quality. So if you're looking for just a workhorse of a shoe, both of these should work for the most part. Now, as far as my pick between the two, I mean, it's not really a fair question, but I would probably go towards the Gel Nimbus 27, more so because of the heel to toe drop. I am just more of a mid drop preference, and so I really like that 5 to 8 millimeter drop range. The 10 tends to be just a little bit too high of a drop for my stride, for my preference. As far as the pace versatility though, I do prefer the versatility of the Glycerin over the Gel Nimbus. I'm just not a huge fan of recovery day shoes, and so I'm going to pick the one that is closest to or closer to a more standard daily trainer, and so that would be the Glycerin, but again, I just much prefer the drop of the Gel Nimbus. So I would lean Gel Nimbus, but really this is not my preferred style shoe for either of them, just full transparency. But when it comes to the job that they are doing, both of them do it very, very well. Both of them just have slightly different approaches, and so I think it wouldn't make sense to have these two shoes in a rotation together. It very much would be you have one or the other for the most part. And that will purely come down to the preference of the runner. Are you a lower drop runner? Are you someone who wants a more supportive cushion underfoot? Do you want more cushion underfoot? Or are you a high drop runner and you like to have a little bit more pop, a little bit more versatility, even on your recovery days, right? That's kind of the decision that you're making here, because a lot of the elements of these shoes are going to be very, very similar, and the price point is exactly the same. So just some final thoughts on these two shoes. Both of them really, really well constructed shoes. I've been enjoying my miles in both of them. To be honest, I did not expect to like the Gel Nimbus 27 because I was not a huge fan of the 26, and I ended up enjoying the 27 quite a bit, and gave me the support that I needed and the cushion that I needed to kind of slow down and enjoy my run on my easy days. The Brooks Glycerin, I am a little bit surprised at the DNA tuned and the direction of this shoe. I find that the shoe is a little bit more versatile now, where it was actually very Gel Nimbus like in my mind with the 21. So fairly big changes on the Glycerin front that I think will favor most runners, but if you're a Glycerin fan, you may not be a fan of those changes. I've already said it before in my Glycerin 21 versus 22 comparison, but I really would love to see DNA tuned in a 6 millimeter drop format. But not 40 plus millimeters like in the Glycerin Max. Like, I would love to see it in a lightweight trainer or even a standard daily trainer format, but with that lower overall drop or that mid drop range. I think it could be really, really interesting there, and I would love to see how it translates. But overall, I don't think you can go wrong with either of these shoes. Some slight differences, but hopefully this review or this comparison will be able to help you make the decision between which one is right for you, for your foot, for your stride, for your preferences. Now, if you stuck around this long, I sure appreciate you. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know what two shoes you would like me to compare next and what you enjoyed about today's comparison. And as always, I'll leave you with a question, which is, do you typically have a recovery in your rotation, or do you prefer to go more of the standard daily trainer route? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks, everybody.